Good. Okay, great. Okay. I think a good way of talking about creating a school is starting to think about dualities. The Zen of starting a school, so to speak. So the first duality I want to talk about is the yin and yang of not only what you put into the school, which is what much of you will be thinking about, but also what you don't allow in, what you don't let in. There's a lot of things you don't need to have in schools that people think you must. Segregated adult and children's bathrooms, for example. Public address systems, bells. You don't need to have those things, and schools have a different feel if you don't. I have an assumption when you're scheduling schools that you're going to do certain things for some and you're going to do certain things for all. And my bias is that you want to avoid things that you do for some, because typically I have found that when you do things for just some, it's disadvantageous to that some, if not to the all. So when you have a program, think about having, for example, a cohort model where everybody gets essentially the same program. You want to keep it simple. Complex structures beget very simple behaviors, like the military, or simple structures get complex behaviors, as Sir Giovanni said, or as Charlie Mingus once said, it's easy to make the simple complicated. True genius lies in making the complex simple. So keep your school simple. Don't overthink it. Don't overload it. You want a school that isn't just about student learning, but it's also about adult learning. Adult and student learning taking place in tandem. As Michelangelo said at the very end of his life, I am still learning. People have to do something to the things they want to find out about. They need to alter conditions, as John Dewey said. People need to find things through invention and reinvention, as Freire said. Be thinking about that, about having a school in which kids are altering conditions and thinking about things and reinventing things, yourself included. In using technology in schools, people think about consumption of technology, and they don't think about production through the use of technology. The beauty of production is that kids are inventing and making things. And the other benefit is that, of course, if they're producing, they're also consuming. If you're consuming, you're not necessarily producing. So if you're producing, you get both. If you're consuming, you don't. We want to use your head, and we want to use your hands, and you want to use both well. MIT's motto is Mense Manus, head and hand. Making things, thinking about things, using head and hand. Tinkering is the great fun that a lot of us have, experimenting and taking things apart and fixing machines and the like. Tinker with your school and make a school in which adults and kids are tinkering with everything that they're doing, physically by making things, and also thinking about how they're scheduling, how they're doing everything. Let people mix it up. Keep mixing it up. Keep it interesting. There is still a role for storytelling. I am doing it right now. Socrates did it in 400 BC with people under a tree. It's okay to tell stories sometimes. There's definitely a role for that. It's interesting when you've got a good storyteller. Don't avoid that completely. We just don't want it to be 100% of what happens in schools, which is what's typically going on.